Hello, everyone. I am going to wait for everyone to come in right quick. And while you guys are all coming in, I'm going to organize this. Okay, okay boys, you guys have to be quiet, okay?
Are you making a video?
Yes, I am. I am making a video. But mommy has to wait for other people to come in. Okay. Hi, you guys. Hey, Money, or hey, sorry. Hi, Nikki. Lila. Hi, everyone. Hi, Sisney. Hello, you guys. I hope you guys are doing good today. It's Friday, finally, right? Friday. I've actually been busy today, really, really busy today. I had a lot going on this week and also today. Uh, I would tell you guys, I guess I'll tell you guys what I did today. Today I actually had to take Iris to the hospital to go get her ultrasound for her hips, to make sure that she doesn't have, I think it's hip dysplasia or something like that, because she was breached, and so I had to bring her to get the ultrasound done because that's what the pediatrician wanted at the hospital, just to make sure that there's nothing wrong with her hips. So pray that there is nothing wrong with her hips. I mean, she seems fine, so we'll see what the ultrasound says. So everything looked fine to me whenever I saw the ultrasound pictures, but we will see what happens. Hi, Lisa. All right, so since we have a few people in here now, I am going to get started. So let me pull up my stuff. All right, so you guys can see me here, and I guess, yep, you guys can see me there. Okay, so I am going to be talking about my labor and delivery and my postpartum care, you guys. And it's a crazy story. There's just so much that you guys are going to kind of be like, what the heck? But it is one that is completely different from my boys. I will tell you guys that right now, okay? So let me go ahead and get started, okay? All right, so a little history about myself, you guys. Um, I've been married for 11 years now to my husband Kong, and together we have three boys and finally our baby girl, Evan, Jacob, Adam, and Iris. And we live in Gastonia. So I want you guys to know a little bit about my pregnancies from the past. With my first three pregnancies, my three boys, I was induced and I ended up getting epidural. So I never ever had like a natural labor with like natural contractions, and so I always literally had to be induced, which really really sucked. If you ever been induced, then you guys would know that they literally pump you up with pitocin, and it's just not good. I mean, some people need it, but some people like, I mean, I guess I needed it, but I think I could have waited like another week or two with the boys. But aside from that, some people actually do need it. Some people, they could go without it if they're having natural contractions and going into natural labor. And so, this last pregnancy, and hopefully it's the last pregnancy, is one that I will always remember and learn from, and something that I hope that you all will remember and also learn from too, okay? All right, so let me give you guys a summary of my pregnancy. I had a class back in May about my oily pregnancy, and I'll give you guys a quick summary. So, when I was 36 weeks, Iris was actually breached, and she was breached in a footling position. So, basically, a footling breach is when the feet are down towards the cervix. The head is supposed to be down at 36 weeks already, but then her feet was down and her head was up here on the left side of my ribs. So I could feel her kicking on my right hip, and her head like just kind of pushing up against my ribs. So she was in like a diagonal position, and they wanted to schedule an eversion for April the 28th. Thank God no eversion was needed because I used peppermint oil. I used frozen sausages, literally, because I had no ice packs. Okay, so seriously, I had no ice packs. I had to use something frozen in my freezer to help. Okay, and I used a heat pack. So the frozen sausages literally were sitting on top of my stomach where her head was at. That will discourage her from keeping herself up there. And then the heat pack was at the bottom where my cervix and my uterus is at, and that will encourage her to go down to where the heat is at. So that's what the whole heat and cold pack is about. And then I also did spinning babies. If you guys don't know what spinning babies is, it's basically a website where a lot of doulas and midwives help pregnant women to uh, turn their breech babies. So I encourage you guys to look spinning babies up if you guys haven't yet. It is a very, very good website. I actually did a lot of those positions where I would be sitting upside down or laying upside down in my feet in the air. So that was one of the positions I was in. I also had I went to go see the chiropractor to get the Webster's technique done. And there was literally only one chiropractor that I found in Gastonia and also in Charlotte. It was so hard to find a chiropractor, especially during the quarantine right now. There's not a lot of offices that are open. So thank God that this guy was open. He actually did the Webster's technique, and that same day when he first did it, I felt Iris move like 3 times that night. It was a big move too, so I knew she had turned. And then another thing that I did was the Chinese moxie sticks. So I still have 8 of these, you guys. I still have 8 of these. So if you are pregnant and you are breached, let me know and I could give this to you because I don't want to waste it. I bought it from Amazon, but I promise you guys it works. But if you guys use this, it really, really stinks. My neighbors thought that we were smoking weed, and we were actually sitting outside, and he was like, "Are you guys smoking weed?" And we told him, we're like, "No, we're not." And Kong had to tell them that I was actually using the Moxie sticks to help with the breaching. Okay, so as you guys know, I was waiting to have this baby naturally. Okay, so I ended up using some clary sage. This right here, it's a purple oil, and it helped with my contractions. Clary sage is meant to be used for later on, like later in your pregnancy. Don't use it at the beginning or the middle of your pregnancy because it will cause contractions. Okay, but if you're like me, where you are always late with your pregnancies, then definitely use clary sage. And so I use clary sage to help with the contractions and the yoga ball, literally bouncing and rolling my hips to help go into labor before the due date. So that is the summary of what happened in the last class back in May, okay? I will switch back over to the PowerPoint, but I really want to tell you guys the story, okay? So, all right. This pregnancy, I was due for May 19th, okay? May 19th, I was only still 1 centimeter dilated, literally 1 centimeter, and I still had a very, very thick cervix. And I blame the breach for me being so late. And so they ended up scheduling my next appointment for that Friday because May 19th was on a Tuesday. And then May 22nd is when I went back in. And I will be 41 weeks the day after Memorial Day. So I went into the office on Friday. Okay, this is the very beginning. Okay, you guys. I went into the office on Friday, and the midwife that I saw, she gave me a cervical massage. In other words, stripped my membranes. I had no idea what. I was just like, okay, whatever. So she said, let me help you to see if this will help you go into labor, this cervical massage. So I was like, okay. And so she did that, and it hurt. It hurt so bad, you guys. I was like, dang, like she went up there and literally like really gave me a cervical massage or just like stripped my membranes, whatever she did to me. And so I I went home that or afterwards and I went to go use the bathroom later on, like a couple hours later. I went to go use the bathroom. I'm gonna go pee. And then when I wiped, there was a bloody mucus, bloody show. And I was like, this is the mucus plug. I think it's the mucus plug. So I was like, okay, this is good. That means that maybe I'm gonna go into labor soon. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. So I was like, really excited, you guys. I was really excited because this is my first natural birth with natural contractions. Okay, and so I I went on during the day and I was still spotting and I was like, huh, am I supposed to be spotting like this? So I called my office and I was like, I asked them, I was like, they gave me a cervical massage today and this bloody show came out. I think it was the mucus plug, but it was very bloody. And then I was still spotting. I told them, I was like, I'm still spotting, but it's not like a spotting where it's like brown or anything. It was a spotting like it was bright red, like fresh blood. And so they said that, oh, that's normal. When you get your membrane stripped or your cervical massage or whatever, then um you will you will bleed a little bit, okay? And so I was like, okay. So I was like, okay, maybe it's normal. So I just went on the rest of my day and the weekend came by, whatever. So Sunday comes, okay? Sunday comes and oh yeah, I forgot to tell you guys. They did schedule for me to get induced on Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day, because I will already be 41 weeks. So just remember that. They don't let you go past 41 weeks unless you want to or demand to, but I wouldn't suggest it. So I was gonna go in Monday night and then Tuesday morning they would induce me. So Sunday night comes, okay? Back to the story. Sunday night comes and it was like 5:30, 5:45 at night, and I was already planning what I was going to eat for my last meal on Monday. I told Kong I wanted some steak with mashed potatoes, and it's from this restaurant, and they also had mushroom risotto. So I was like, that's what I want to eat for my last meal. I say that because it's literally gonna be my last meal before I have this baby. And so um I already had everything planned out in my head and then around 6 o'clock I started having contractions. I was like, oh wow, I'm finally having contractions. These are normal contractions. But then I was like, maybe it's just Braxton Hicks. So I laid down and I just laid out on the couch for a while. And then they say that with Braxton Hicks contractions, when you lay out or lay down for a while, it'll go away. Well, these contractions kept happening and happening. And so I was like, I think I should time my contractions. So I downloaded an app called, I think it's like a contractions app or something like that. It's free. And basically, I started timing my contractions, even though I was having contractions for the whole hour from 6 all the way to 7. And so at 7 o'clock, I was timing them, and then my contractions were literally like 4 to 5 minutes apart. And so I was like, okay, that's good. That's good. I think it's normal, whatever. So remember, you guys, this is my first natural pregnancy and the first time I've ever had like natural contractions. Okay. So I went on and then like literally like after you record your contractions 5 times, I think, it'll alert you and tell you that you should go to the hospital. And that's what it did to me. It said I should go to the hospital. So I talked to Kong and I was like, should we go to the hospital or should we just wait it out at home? And he said he didn't want to wait it out at home, but I wanted to wait it out at home because I knew it's still early on in labor. And so he was like, okay, I don't want you to have the baby at home and I don't want you to have the baby in the car because I am not going to know what to do because he gets wheezy with he gets wheezy with blood and all that. And so he was just like, we should just go to the hospital. So he went on and got all the bags and everything ready. So we left to the hospital around 7:50. We got there around 8:30 at night. And then they checked me to see how much dilated I was. I was actually 3 centimeters dilated when I got there. And then they put us into the delivery room around 9 o'clock. Okay, so 9 o'clock comes, the contractions are, getting, they're bearable, but they're strong. They're not too crazy. And so um I was literally bouncing on the yoga ball, watching TV, and I was a happy natural pregnancy lady there. And so, Kong, he was like telling me, his because they have the consent forms that they go over with you at the beginning, and they asked you, do you want to get epidural just in case? This is just a consent. It's not saying that you're going to do it. I said no, but Kong was like, you should do it just in case. I was like, no. And the nurse and them were like, well, you should do it because it might take like about 15 to 20 minutes just to get this form all filled out and get the anesthesiologist to come up here another 30 minutes. And so I was like, fine, if you want me to do it, I'll just do it. It's not like we're going to be committed to it. So, I ended up just doing it. I didn't get epidural. I just, got the form signed. I didn't get epidural at that time when I got in. So 9 o'clock all the way to 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock comes midnight, okay? They check my cervix again, and I was only 3 centimeters, still 3 centimeters. So you guys have to remember, I was still in early labor. I really wish they sent me home, but I was still in early labor, and I was still just 3 centimeters. And so even though I was having all those contractions, and this is the weird thing, okay, you guys. I was still like bleeding while I was having these contractions, and I was kind of like, I wonder if this is normal because I would be sitting on the yoga ball and I would bleed a little bit, and then, I was kind of worried, but then the midwife and the nurse didn't really seem too worried about it, so I thought everything was okay. Well, 12 o'clock comes. The nurse said that they want to do pitocin. And I said, no, I don't want to do pitocin. I do not want to do pitocin. And then she was like, let me go talk to the midwife and see what she says. The midwife that was there that night, I have actually never seen her in the office. I saw some other midwives, but I didn't see her. This is my first time meeting her. So she doesn't know my history about having 3 inductions or 3 previous inductions and pitocin and epidurals. And so she told me that she wanted me to get the pitocin because my labor seemed to have been stalled and the contractions were slowing down. And so I was like, fine, I guess I'll just do it, whatever. And so literally around 12:15, 12:30, between that time, they brought in that pitocin machine, whatever you want to call it. And um, they basically they basically put it in the IV, of course, and they usually up the pitocin every hour. So I started at 2, I think, milliliters, and then it went up to 4, and then it went up to 6. So from 12 a.m. all the way to 3 a.m. I was having contractions after contraction after contraction after contraction. It was like stack, 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 stack. But let me tell you guys, the contractions were way too close together. It was just way too close. And I I was like, this cannot be normal because I was only 3 centimeters, okay? And my contractions would last for a whole minute. And then I get a 10-second rest, a whole minute of contractions again, and then a 10-second rest. And remember, I was still having natural contractions. So it was my natural contractions with the Pitocin contractions. Natural Pitocin, natural Pitocin. So it just kept stacking like that. I suffered for 3 hours, 3 hours from 12 all the way to 3 in the morning. And then finally, 3 in the morning or 3:30, Kong did not get any sleep because I was literally just, bearing through my contractions. And so he was like, you should get the epidural. And I was like, I don't want to get the epidural. And so I was so persistent, but then he the whole time he was looking at me, he said that, I was bleeding. And so, I was worried too. And I eventually, because it was hurting so bad, I eventually got the epidural. Okay. I got the epidural, but it will go on to a whole nother story with that. Okay, you guys. So I got the epidural. They checked me at about 3:30, and I was after 3:30 I got the epidural, and then they checked me. I was 5 centimeters. Okay, so usually from at 5 centimeters and 5 to 7 centimeters, that's when you are actually in active labor. And so I was literally laying in bed. And when you get epidural, you guys cannot lay all the way back. The nurse said that they don't want you to lay all the way back because the epidural can actually rise up and you can end up being numb from the neck down. But this was so weird, you guys. So they laid me back. Anyways, they laid me back. They didn't put too much epidural in me because I could still move and wiggle my toes, okay? But I laid back. Yes. Okay, go. So I laid back and they just kept flipping me side to side to side. I was literally being flipped side to side to side the whole time. And I was like, what the heck are they doing? I'm not supposed to be moving side to side. I could sit up. If I sit up, it will help the baby come out. And from three to five, actually at 5 o'clock, before 5 o'clock, she came back to check me, and when she checked me, um, my water broke. And so when my water broke, she kind of sat on the bed and just looked. And the look on her face, I could tell something was wrong. And so I was kind of like, "Is everything okay?" And she was like, yeah, your water just broke." I was like, "Okay." But the way that she was looking at my amniotic fluid, it just looked concerning to me. So she knew something was wrong. I think they all knew something was wrong, but they were trying to keep me calm and Kong calm. And so they checked me, and I was 7 centimeters. So that's really great. That's really, really good. I was 7 centimeters, and then from 5 o'clock all the way to 7 o'clock, you guys, I was shaking, shaking profusely, like shaking so much that my teeth was chittering and chattering. And I could not figure out what the heck was wrong with me. I couldn't sleep from 5 o'clock all the way to 7 o'clock in the morning because I was shaking so hard. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't, I'm not even cold. And I was like, I could feel that I was sweaty, but I didn't know what was going on. And so I tried to wake Kong up, but Kong was completely knocked out, you guys. And I couldn't really say his name because I was shaking so much that I couldn't, because I would be like, call, like, wake up. Like, you guys know when you're like shaking and you're talking and it just kind of comes out like it's not coming out. And so around 7 o'clock, he finally woke up and he was like, "Hey, are you okay?" I was like, "Can you call the nurse? Something is wrong." So he called the nurse, and the nurse said that they'll send someone in. And then the nurse called us back and told us that she basically said, "Oh, it's normal for her to shake after she delivers." And Kong was like, "She hasn't delivered yet. She still has the baby inside of her." And so she was like, "Oh, okay. It could be hormones, but let me call the nurse and send them to your room." So as soon as she said that it could be hormones, I told Kong, "Give me my Progestins Plus and give me my Dragon Time." And so, literally, like, I used this and this. I put these two together and I put it on my neck and on my forearms, and I stopped shaking. I would stop shaking for like a good 30 minutes, and then I would start shaking again. And so, or a good like 5, 10 minutes, and then I would start shaking again. And then finally they came in and they checked, and they did not want to check my cervix anymore. They would not check my cervix. And I was like, "Why are you guys not checking my cervix? Isn't that your job?" And so they they literally took my temperature, and I already knew that my temperature was high because it was like over 100 degrees, and my blood pressure was really high too. And then throughout the whole time, when I had pitocin administered from 12 all the way to 7, baby's heart rate just kept dipping every time. It would keep dipping. Pitocin was from 12 to 3, and then epidural the whole time after that. And they shut the freaking Pitocin machine off, you guys. They shut that machine off at 3 or no, 4 o'clock, close to 4 o'clock. I was so pissed off. I was like, what is this? You guys were tricking me to get epidural or something? And so I was really pissed off because I was like, the only reason I got epidural is because this freaking Pitocin is like really just it's stacking my contractions and is not normal. And so they turned off the Pitocin machine, and I had no idea why they did that. And then they kept coming in every 30 minutes and checking baby's heart rate because her heart rate would go up and down, up and down. It'll be 160s all the way down to like 110, 120, sometimes 90. And so it worried them. So the whole time, baby was basically stressed. And she was so stressed that it caused her to poop meconium. Meconium is the baby's first poop. It caused her to poop inside the uterus, you guys. And so when she had pooped inside the uterus, I ended up also getting sick because of I had choreo and amniotitis. I can't even say the thing, but it's basically choreo for short. And basically, choreo it comes from the bacteria of the vagina, and so that somehow got its way up to the uterus, and I don't know all the technical stuff. And so the reason why I was shaking from 5 all the way to 7 was because I had like a fever, and my body was going into distress, and then baby was stressed. So the Pitocin caused the baby to be stressed from 12 all the way to when they shut it off. And that's why they shut it off. They shut it off because they said that baby's heart rate kept dipping, and and because I had epidural, they had to monitor me too. And then it caused baby to go to stress during that time, and then me go into distress too. And so that's what caused the fever. And then let me tell you guys what happens, okay? So 7 o'clock is when they do the shift change for the nurses and midwives, okay? And um when they came in to check me, they did not want to check me. They did not want to check my cervix. And I was like, why don't you guys want to check my cervix? And they said that, oh, the midwife will come do it. I was like, okay. So the midwife had to come in and check my cervix. And at that time, around eight, eight, no, around 9 o'clock, I was 9 o'clock to 9:30. I was actually 8 to 10 or 8 to 9 centimeters only. So 8 to 9 centimeters, and at 9:45 or 9:35, they wanted me to push. I wasn't even fully dilated. And so I knew something was wrong because I had to push this baby out even though I was not fully dilated. And so I was really I had no idea because I was literally out of it, guys, and I lost a lot of blood already. And so when I was pushing baby, I could still feel down there, okay, you guys. When I was pushing baby, I felt like four big gulps of stuff coming out, and I was like, the two nurses were like, "What is that?" And I was like, yeah, what is that? I just felt four things or whatever come out. What is that? And the midwife said, oh, that's baby's poop. So she pooped that much inside of me. It's like 4 gulps of water, you guys. Literally 4 gulps of poop coming out. And so I was like, so she pooped inside of me, okay? And I ended up pushing her out, and I wasn't even fully dilated. And so when when I was pushing, like the whole room was full of people, and there was probably like 15 or 16 people in there. And the midwife said, oh, don't worry about the people in the background, that's the pediatric team, just to check, they're just here to check on baby to make sure everything is okay with her when we get her out. And I was like, okay, but that is not normal, you guys. When you have a whole audience looking at you pushing the baby out of your vagina, that is not normal. And so after I pushed her out, 4 of the people left. And I believe that four of those people were the surgical tech people, basically the ones who prep you for surgery for C-section. And then the other people were the pediatric people, and then the other people were the nurses. So there was like so many people in that room when I was pushing her out. And as soon as I pushed her out, she actually had a fever, and I forgot what her temperature was, but her temperature was high too, and my temperature was high. And so when that happened, I was kind of like, okay, she's out now, and I was already laying back. But you guys, I was totally out of it because I had lost so much blood that I was so pale. I was pale to like I don't know what color I was. I was just really pale, and so um, I have a video. I'll probably end up showing you guys sometime, but I was really really pale after I had her, and so thank God everything turned out the way it did, and I did not have to get a C-section. And I have to I have to tell you guys, I was so mad. I was so mad because I was laying in bed and they just kept flipping me side to side, right? And I was like, man, I better not get a C-section. If they give me a C-section, I'm gonna walk out here, even though I can't walk because I had epidural. I'm gonna walk out here because I was so mad. I was like, I'm not prepared to have a C-section, and so I was cussing you guys because I was so mad. I was like, why won't they let me sit up? And so after I had baby, it was because I was bleeding so much, bleeding, 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 and they thought that I was going to hemorrhage, and so they turned the pitocin machine on after I had her so it could prevent and treat the hemorrhaging so I don't hemorrhage. But I kept bleeding so much, and then the nurse had to come in, and she every time she came in, which was like every 15 to 30 minutes she'll come in, she would change the sheet under me because there was so much blood continuously just coming out after I had the baby, and that is not normal. And so I stayed in the delivery room for a good an extra 2 hours after I had Iris. And it's because they wanted to monitor me and to make sure that I wasn't hemorrhaging. Afterwards, they sent me back or sent me to the other rooms where everything's okay and I was cleared. Afterwards, my heart rate was really high. My heart rate was literally like 111 to 115. And after I had baby, and my blood pressure was like 130s to over, I forgot what, it was like 130s. And so that in itself would tell you guys how horrific this birthing story is. And so I went through so much, you guys, from the time I from the time they gave me pitocin all the way until like way after I delivered. I wasn't even fully dilated. And that's what drives me insane. I was not fully dilated and they made me push her out, which is fine because otherwise I would have had a C-section, okay? So let me go back to the PowerPoint so I could explain to you guys all those crazy things, okay? All right. So pitocin. If you guys don't know what pitocin is basically a synthetic version of oxytocin, okay? Oxytocin is a hormone that your body produces naturally to help you produce contractions, and the contractions help you to dilate, okay? It's like a domino effect. The oxytocin is also known as the feel-good hormone, okay? So pitocin is used to speed up labor when it's stalled, and you know, the thing about pitocin though is that it can also stress you, the baby, and your uterus. It could put a lot of stress on those three, on you, baby, and uterus, okay? And of course, the risks include the change in the baby's heart rate, which is what was happening to Iris the whole time. Her heart rate was up and down, up and down. And then it also increases the chance of having a C-section, which explains why the surgical tech team was in the back or in an audience in the room watching me have a baby. And then another risk is uterine rupture. So these are some of the risks with Pitocin, which is why I did not want to have it. Epidural, of course, you guys know I had epidural. It's a great pain reliever during labor if you cannot handle it. It's great a great pair with pitocin. Okay, I'll tell you guys that now. Um, but if you guys can handle without the pitocin and you guys are not in the same situation I was, then don't get the epidural. I'm just saying the risk. I literally had like the blood pressure, the headache, shivering, backache. But I have to remind you guys, I have never had a reaction to epidural or pitocin ever. And I had 3 pregnancies with epidural and pitocin, and I never had the shivers. I never had a headache. I never had bleeding. I never had any of those things. And that's why it was so crazy to me that I was having these things. But then those side effects came from when they gave me the pitocin because it stressed the baby out and it stressed me out, and it caused me to have fever, her to have a fever, and her to poop inside of me, and it also caused me to have choreo. Okay, so meconium is basically your baby's first poop, like I told you guys. This is the scary part. Okay, meconium aspiration syndrome is when the baby gets meconium into their lungs while they're still in the womb. So because she was still in my uterus and she pooped, that in itself would have been a C-section right away. But I think they were trying to prevent me from having a C-section, so that's why they made me push her when I was only like 8 to 9 centimeters. And so the meconium, of course, happens when the baby is stressed, and it when the baby comes out, it's going to be hard for the baby to breathe because the meconium clogs up the airways, and the risk of course is the stress before birth. And it happens when you have an overdue placenta, basically you're past your due date, or you have or decreased oxygen with the baby, diabetes from mom, high blood pressure from mom, or difficult delivery or long labor. I had a difficult delivery. I had a long labor. I think I had a long labor. I guess for some people they might have a longer, but I had a long labor. And so this is what it is. So I never knew about this until this had happened to me. And thank God that she did not have meconium aspiration syndrome, because I don't know what they would have done. But when she came out, she was crying. So that's a good sign already. So, chorioamnionitis, okay? So this is caused by bacteria in the vagina, and it happens when the water breaks, and it's for a long period of time that the water had already broke. So remember, my water broke around 5 o'clock, and I didn't have her until 9:54 a.m. And so the symptoms, of course, high fever, had that, rapid heart rate, had that. Baby also had rapid heart rate, and then it will drop, rapid heart rate, and then drop. I was sweating. My uterus was really tender to touch, and discharge, of course. So that is basically a sum of those of epidural, pitocin, choreo, and meconium aspiration syndrome. Okay, and this is what I used when I was at the hospital. All right. I used clary sage to produce contractions, to help produce contractions, and frankincense also for grounding because I really needed it. And I had to use deep relief and peppermint when I was still having natural contractions, and when they had administered the pitocin, it was hurting my head was hurting, and then my stomach was also hurting because I literally just had like abdominal labor, which was not too bad. Um, of course, lavender for sleep because I didn't get any sleep, and my adrenaline was pumping whenever I was going into distress. So I had to use peace and calming and stress away. Peace and calming and stress away. I literally empty out my body. Peace away and stress away. These two are the two that I use because my adrenaline was pumping so much that my contractions stalled. They literally stalled. There was no more contractions for I don't know how long, for like a good hour or two. And so I it's because my adrenaline was just pumping, and it was that it was the stress that I was getting from the pitocin and the epidural, and then also because the bleeding that I had, which was weird. And then I used Progestins Plus and Dragon Time from, remember when I was when the nurse said that it could be a hormone thing. And Ningxia Red, I drank that because I'm not allowed to eat. I can't eat after I get an epidural and pitocin. You're not allowed to eat, or even when you go into labor, they won't let you eat. So I had to get something in my system because I was really pale, you guys. Like I was as pale as this PowerPoint background. I'm not even kidding. I was really pale. And then the other thing that I use, of course, is Clariderm. I kid you guys not. This is the best thing you guys want to use when you are healing down there. I was so swollen. I was so swollen. Kong told me that I was more swollen than I ever was whenever I had the boys. And the Clariderm, when I sprayed it, like literally like an hour or 2 hours later, my swelling just went down. It went down, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's gone. The swelling is gone. And I also used that for like the next 2, 3 weeks after I had her because, you know, because I was only 8 to 9 centimeters dilated when I had Iris. I did not tear. Thank God I didn't tear. But I was just like, man, I feel like they done stretched me out. Because Kong told me that they stretched me out. Like they stretched me out like this, you guys, just so they could get the baby out. And that's a visual, you guys. I hope you guys don't mind. That is a visual of literally what they did. Kong said there were two nurses, one nurse over here, one nurse over here, and then the midwife in the center. And that is literally how I delivered my baby. And so I really needed the Clariderm for that reason. All right, and so these are just some of the references. I could share that with you guys later on. But yes, you guys, that was my crazy, crazy pregnancy, and it was so bad. I was still bleeding even after I had the baby. I was still bleeding um the next like 3 weeks, 3, 4 weeks, I was still bleeding. And it was still like bright red blood. And so I knew that something was not normal, and I believe that something had happened from the time when I had my membrane stripped all the way to when I delivered, and I continue to just keep bleeding, and I have no idea what it is or what it was. But I mean, at my 6 week appointment when they checked me, she said everything was normal. The uterus is back to normal size. The cervix was fine, and everything was fine. And so I guess everything is good, but I hope that there's nothing wrong down there. That's what I'm really hoping for, and I hope there's nothing wrong down there. And so, I want you guys to learn from my experience. I want you guys to really get an understanding of what happens in a delivery room and when you go into labor, and for you guys to be prepared, because this stuff, like everyone's labor story is different, everyone's birthing story is different. And my birthing story for me was like a complete nightmare because I did not plan to have this. My expectation was to have a natural birth because I thought that I was going to have a natural birth because I had natural contractions. Guess what? Sometimes you have to expect the unexpected. You could throw those birthing plans out the window. I mean, keep it on the side, but just make sure you have a plan B. I did not have a plan B because remember, this was my first natural pregnancy, and I did not have a plan B. I had no idea what to do, and so it was really it was hard for me, and I'm so glad this is my last child. I hope it's my last child, you guys. I kind of don't, but I kind of do, but we'll see. It should be though, because Kong's done. But yes, you guys. So, I really want you guys to, learn from my birthing story, from my experience, and to really to pack your oils to the hospital, because I promise you guys are going to need those oils. You guys are going to need the Clariderm spray. You guys are going to need all those things because if you guys don't have it, you are going to literally go for what they have at the hospital. And what they have at the hospital, yes, it's great for you. I'm not going to doubt them, but there's something better, something more natural for you guys to use, something for you and your baby. Okay? So I hope you guys are not freaked out about my story. And before I end, I am going to tell you guys about my placenta. My placenta, of course, you guys know I've been drinking nature right throughout my pregnancy. My placenta was not red and beefy and meaty. It was not. Um, I I would like to show you guys, but I don't want to get in trouble. But I have a picture of it, but I don't want to show you guys. But then it was actually very dead. It was so dead, you guys. When the midwife saw it, she was like, "Wow, it's a good thing that you guys had her when you guys did." That's what she basically said to us because I was like, "Okay." Whatever that means. And when I saw the placenta, I was like, oh my God, like, no wonder why. So yeah, I mean that's the story of my placenta, okay? But yeah, you guys definitely put these oils to use. Really think about your birthing plan and make sure that you have a plan A, plan B, and plan C because you don't know what's going to happen. And I really hope that you guys learned something. If you guys have any questions at all, you guys feel free to ask. You guys can ask me or the person who invited you, whatever it is. I am an open book, and if you guys want to see my placenta, I don't mind sending you a picture. Okay. You guys have a good night, and thank you so much for coming to the class.